You're still live with us on Village Square Africa. Now, the recent wave of attacks on schools in Nigeria, particularly in the northern region, has brought to light the growing insecurity and its devastating impact on the education system. Now, the closure of Bauchi University, for example, following the tragic killing of a 500-level student by suspected armed robbers, is just one example of a turmoil that has disrupted the lives of students, the lives of parents, and educators at large. The parents of the abducted students of the Federal University of Gusau in Zamfara State are still left in anguish, demanding the safe return of their children. We still don't know what their fate is. The fear and uncertainty surrounding the safety of students in these educational institutions has sparked outrage and calls for urgent action to address the escalating security crisis. Now, the implications of these attacks on schools are far-reaching, and it requires a comprehensive analysis of the root causes and potential solutions. And that's why we're here today. The safety and well-being of students and educators should be a top priority, and it is imperative that the government and the security agencies take decisive measures to ensure the protection of educational institutions. I mean, it's not enough to just beef up the budget of education. If the students don't feel secured enough, then there's no point going to school. Well, that said, joining me to have this conversation first in the studio is Professor Adewale Tiamiyu, a lecturer in the Department of European Languages and Integration Studies in University of Lagos. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Also joining us, we have Judge Brown, a security expert in Rivers State. Thank you also, Judge Brown, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Blessing. Good morning,
it's my
viewers.
Pleasure.
Good afternoon, wherever you are.
Good afternoon. Okay, I'll start with you, Professor. We've seen the incessant attacks, on schools, on students that have led to shutting down of the schools. Recently, a 500-level student was killed. What would we say is the underlying cause, or are the underlying causes of these constant attacks on schools, especially? Before it used to be, the major concern was, in the north. But now it's spreading, it's everywhere. We don't know where next, these attackers will strike. What exactly is the root cause?
Well, the causes are very numerous, very many. What I've just understood is that the students themselves could be the cause of the attack.
How is that?
There could be courts among them.
Okay.
There could be those who are materialistic in nature. Then we can also have people coming outside, attacking the students, protesting. They are protesting against the government. So they are using students as pawns now to complain that they are not comfortable. So I think the main problem is caused by unemployment when the youth do not have job. Or you have frustrated a group of youths, or we are talking of terrorists who see students as victims. What actually early happened in the north, we can see that most northerners, the youths, are not educated. And so the ones in school actually come from well-to-do families. So you can suspect the people attacking them as the downtrodden, the children from downtrodden who want to complain about the system by attacking the students.
So are we saying that it doesn't look like it has anything to do with, terrorism, terrorist activities, not the youth now of the communities, but other, armed bandits, terrorists who have personal vendetta against maybe the government of, the state or the country at large? Are we saying it doesn't have anything to do with those people?
No, what I'm trying to say is this. Actually, based on my study in 19th century, I discovered that we have people who are romantics. Being romantic means you want to change the system. So terrorists are another group of romantic people who want to change the system by using force. So there are many ways you want to change the system. And that's why within the institutional system, we have the youths who are against the system, who are courts or they want to oppress others. And we have people outside the university system or the institution system who are not part of the educational system, but they want to destroy the system and they want to attack. So that's why the two suspects will be within and outside. So the within means those students that have kind of serve as agents, inviting people, because if there's no internal, there's no way they can come and attack them. There will be informants among the students who will give information to those people outside. If you don't understand the system, you can't come and attack that system.
Right.
So the first suspect will be within the system and outside the system.
Right.
Now, if it's outside the system, who are the people outside the system? In case of people living outside the campus when they don't have hostel, the suspect could also be students who are living among them. Now, if they are living outside, there could be people also who are not educated, but they are not employed, they don't have job, and they want to get rich quickly. That's what I'm talking of, materialistic. If the people are insatiable, they make money, but they are not satisfied. So we are in 19th century in Africa, whereas we have citizens of 21st century because they have access to information technology. So they are dreaming of something. So it's a world that does not exist in Africa. So that will now make them to engage in crime. And that's why I said we have to a group of criminals or the people who perpetrate evil in the society within the system and outside the system.
Right. Okay, George, let me come to you now. For this to be a continuous happening, it only means that it doesn't look very much like we have a strong defense as a country. So what are the specific security vulnerabilities that have made educational institutions especially a target for criminal elements?
Okay, Blessing, security challenges are hydra-headed. They are not just straight and linear. There are a lot of factors that lead to a breakdown in security. And with specific focus on educational institutions, as it were, you discover that for that brand of security breaches, it always has to do with issues that are even beyond the educational institutions. And the reason is because the educational institutions are part of the larger society. And every factor or every impact that the larger society is impacted with also has a way of influencing or impacting security. Now, we had the first of this kind of terror when the Chibok girls were kidnapped in 2014, precisely, I think on the 14th or 16th of April. And that was the beginning where 276 girls plus were kidnapped, okay, and taken away. And from then, we'll be having series of such. Well, educational institutions are soft targets. They are vulnerable targets that terrorists, because these people that are carrying out these acts are not just necessarily armed robbers. Calling them armed robbers is just like patting, a slap on the back of your palm, rubbing off your palm. This is full-scale terror. In this school in question in Ogun State, Gateway Polytechnic, that we're looking at, this is not the first time that their off-campus facilities are being attacked. Students are being attacked, and for these to continue unabated is simply because the environmental and societal negative impacts surrounding the environment or community where the school is also taking its toll on the educational institution. So what do I mean by those impacts? You have sociological impact, you have economic impact, you have challenges with communities in terms of security. So when you have those vulnerabilities, it will also impact on every subset of the larger community, and the schools in this case are one of such. So it is a failure on the part of the security operatives. It's a failure on their part because this is not a flashpoint attack. This has been consistent. It has been ongoing. So we cannot absolve the security organizations from this attack. And the government of the state that also owns that institution has also failed on her part to provide security and secure that institution of learning, considering the fact that attacking institutions or attacking schools, even secondary schools that are boarding schools, has become a norm because terrorist activities are funded by proceeds from the ransoms that are collected from kidnapped victims, from their parents. So it is a whole gamut of crime. It's a big, huge crime scene. Terror in itself is a crime scene. The ideology behind every terror move is either religious or financially induced. But even when it is centered around religion, there is always the need for funding of the activities of the terrorist organization. So resorting to kidnap is the easiest way to raise money to support and continue to sustain their activities. So we have to put this box, we have to stop it on the table of the government of the day in that state of Ogun, and also the security operatives. The commissioner of police, the director of SSS, cannot absolve themselves from security reports that they must have been getting concerning the things going on and around those communities where the school are, where the school is situated. They cannot shy away from the fact that they have been getting security reports. It's not possible. It's not just possible.
Okay. Thanks, George. Now, that said, Professor Tiamiyu, George has highlighted that there seems to be a failure, on the part of, of course, we would not deny the fact that they're doing a good job, doing their best to fight this, but it doesn't seem to be enough. So if you were to prefer solution, or if you were to give advice on how best or what strategies can best work to tackle the issue of insecurity so as to ensure that the students and the educators themselves are safe enough to go to school, what will these measures be?
Well, I was trying to limit the scope of discussion to institutions. Otherwise, if it's a security problem, security is a larger issue. So if it's a global issue, national, if it is national security, advice would be to go to the federal government. State security has to go to the state government, and local government. Now we're not talking of institutional security, which has to do with the universities, polytechnics, and so on and so forth. So my advice is that the first advice I will give to the government and the stakeholders is to provide more hostel facilities on campus so that we can increase our admission intake. When we have more students, we can lead to employment of more lecturers, more staff. So that's the first solution.
But apologies, let me just quickly interrupt there. So if we're talking about having more students, it means that there are more people to look after.
Yes.
And we still have the security crisis. So isn't it expedient to tackle the security issue before we look into admitting more students?
Well, the cases that we have now is outside the university system. So if those students were living on campus, the security system in the university environment. So if they are now living outside the system, that's now where the problem is. So I'm advising the government to have what we call student quarters.
Okay.
Outside campus, where there will be security.
Right.
And government will build the quarters for them.
Right.
And I'm also advising that government, the law enforcement agents should employ students right from undergraduate. Maybe 20% of them should join the police, the military. There will be police on campus. They will have gun, and they can give them 25% of the salary of the police, so they can actually defend themselves if anybody is coming from outside.
But is there no possibility that these students now can become power drunk and now become a menace to their fellow students?
No, they have to join the police. It means after they finish, they are already a part of police system. Right. So it means that if they can employ undergraduate police, because you have some police who only have O level. So if they come to campus to recruit policemen who can police the students. They are students, they know themselves. If a policemen cannot really police the students themselves. But if they are students, like you have prefects among the students, they know themselves. So if you have police among them, when they want to go for service, they go and serve under the police. So I'm thinking of that. So the second one is outside, there must be hostel outside. built by the state government or by private institution, then in each hostel there must be police students that will be quota that will be able to monitor. So I'm thinking that students from there, they should be able to defend themselves, but they must be real police, trained as police, who will go and serve other police.
All right, George, let me get your opinion on what measures can be adopted to tackle the issue of security.
Security is not just the responsibility of people or impacted community. Security is actually everybody's responsibility.
George, apologies. We seem to be having issues with your audio. We're hoping it can get fixed so I can come back. I can circle back to you on that question. But in the meantime, let me come back to Professor. Now, looking at it, from a broader perspective, what do you think the implications will be if this issue of insecurity is not treated or tackled now?
Well, it will lead to further complicated problems in future, because we have youths who are already frustrated already. And so when they are now killing them again, it makes them to be psychologically sick. And in future, we are going to have people who will not be responsible in future. So I'm always afraid for the future of the younger generation. So when I go to lecture, I talk to them to let them see. But I think the best, what the students should do is to engage the younger generation by providing jobs, or also boosting their participation in sports. In the 90s, I used to be an athlete. I was a sprinter at National Stadium. We used to go to track twice a week. Then I used to train with Mayor Yali and so on in the 90s. And the participation of youths doing sport in the 90s. Well, recently I went to stadium there, but the place was very scanty. It shows that the government is not really doing anything to engage the youths. And the youths, they want to discover. They are restless generation. They want something that will keep their brain busy. So what the government can do is to increase their participation in artificial intelligence, then sports, and also create job opportunities for them. Also, entertainment industry, they can also encourage them. If once they are engaged, the crime rate will go down.
Right. George, could you confirm again if we have your audio now?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I think it's better now. So you were talking about measures that we can adopt as a country to tackle insecurity issues.
Yeah. Okay. I want to digress a little from what my co-panelist is talking about. The government is not the only responsible organization for security. Yes, it's the control of the government, but everybody is part of the government. So that is why, on the basis of our conversation, I said that security is everybody's responsibility. The intelligence aspect of security, which is one of the most critical aspects of security, is that intelligence is actually garnered from the community to the security operatives. And that is why security operatives get embedded in communities by way of plainclothes people, by way of detectives or spies. And they get into communities and get embedded and just melt in like members of the community so that they can know what's actually happening in that locality. So if members of the community are not taking responsibility by getting information and cascading the information to the various security agencies, then how do you say that that is just the fault of the government? The government alone cannot provide security, as it were, because for starts, the Nigerian police is undermanned. They don't have enough manpower. Civil defense is also, all security agencies in this country are overstretched. They are overstretched. The Nigerian Army, Air Force, and the Navy are battle weary. They are tired. They are fighting on multiple fronts and in multiple theaters. The Nigerian police is overstretched. The Nigerian Army, that is not supposed to be taking part in internal security operations, are now embedded in IS operations all over the country.
Right.
And that is why the and respect for the army has dwindled. So the communities need to help themselves. The communities need to set up security vigilante groups to take care of their environment, because when a stranger comes into a community, the community will be able to spot out that stranger.
Right.
So strangers can come into a community and commit a crime and get away with it without the complicity of members of that community.
All right. Thank you so much, George Brown. It is a conversation that I would have loved for us to continue having, but because we're pressed for time, we would have to end it here. I want to say a big thank you to you, George Brown, a security expert in Rivers State. And of course, thanks to my in-house guest, Adewale Tiamiyu, Professor Adewale Tiamiyu, lecturer, Department of European Languages and Integration Studies in UNILAG. Thank you both for giving a balanced perspective to the development. We really do appreciate your time with us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, blessings.